And welcome to the Worldview Financial Report. It is June 25th, 2024. What are we going to talk about tonight? How about this right here? San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly restrained demand needed to get inflation down. How about this one? This headline here. Fed Governor Bowman says she's still open to raising rates if inflation doesn't improve. Here's another one. Housing and pandemic boom towns up to 40% overvalued, says a venture CEO. Let's see here. What else? Fearing losses, banks are quietly dumping real estate loans. Well, that's interesting. An overload of warning signals marks the last straw that could send the S&P 500 plunging 70%, says one individual. Oh, how about a 1929 stock market crash video? Another one of those. Those are fun. It's all happening again. The supply chain is under strain. And then that's a different article for my show. All right, so to join me to discuss those is Mike Weiner and Wes Peters. The prodigal son has returned. Wes, welcome back.
Good evening, Brannon. How are you?
Great. It's good to have you back. I hope you enjoyed your trip. Shall we say where you went?
Yeah, I went to Reno, Nevada, and Carson City.
Wow. How was that?
I actually toured the Carson City Mint, which was very interesting, and watched them press some coins from one of the old school mints where they used to make the Carson City Morgan silver dollars and gold pieces.
Look at that. Mommy took you on a field trip.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll talk about maybe playing a little, I'll check out the video that I took and maybe we'll play a little bit of the video.
Send it over to Logan. Well, yeah. So you've been to San Diego, you've been to Reno. Any other, Michael's laughing. Any other trips planned, Michael or Wes?
Possibly Colorado next month.
Really? You're just a regular gypsy. You're a regular gypsy, aren't you?
Well, I can work on the road too, Brandon. Keep that in mind. I mean, I'm productive wherever I am.
Do you believe that, Michael?
I believe it.
You do? All right. Good. Michael's got your back, Wes.
Yeah, we're a team. We're like Starsky and Hutch. What is it, Tango and Cash?
Yeah, more like Felix and Unger.
Or Dumb and Dumber.
There you go. That's actually Biden and Kamala.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumb.
Wow. All right, let's go to this one. The first article up tonight, guys. San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly, restrained demand is needed to get inflation down. Let's play this little video, and then we'll have the boys respond.
Of the remarks we noted, she's
it might be good if I started from the beginning. Here we go.
Fed San Francisco President Mary Daly saying the economy is closer to a point where the benign outcome could be less likely. So she's the second person today, second Fed official to worry about possible weakness in the economy. She goes on to say inflation is not the only risk we face. And then she offers two different scenarios, which are not perhaps surprising to our viewers. She says the Fed can stay higher for longer if inflation falls more slowly than expected, but lower rates would be necessary if inflation falls more rapidly or the labor market softens more than expected, very much using a construction used by the Fed chair, Jay Powell. She goes on to say the Fed is still fighting to bring inflation to 2%. So here's the normal talk about still fighting inflation, saying we've made progress on inflation, still more work to do. Goes on to say the rise in unemployment so far has been modest when you look at the decline in inflation, and she's not yet confident enough to cut rates because of the bumpiness of the recent inflation data. And she says it's hard to know if we're on track for price stability. One other thing which is interesting, she says restrained demand is now needed to get inflation down. So, Tyler, another Fed official who's the idea of working in this idea that there is some weakness they're concerned about, but not yet definitively offering new guidance about how monetary policy would respond to that change in the outlook.
Interesting that last point you made there. Restrained demand is going to be a key part of getting inflation under control. That sounds like we've got to have a slower economy with higher unemployment.
I put that in there, Tyler, because it was a little bit perplexing to me in the sense that she's at the top of the remarks we noted. She's concerned about a weakening economy. At the end there, we talked about how she's saying, well, look, we need a weaker economy to get inflation down. So I'm not exactly sure what maybe the reaction function is of the Fed here to weakness. Would they cut rates or would they welcome a slower economy?
Yeah, exactly. Steve, thanks. Steve Leisman.
Okay, that's an interesting situation there, guys. What do you make of that, Michael Weiner?
Well, clearly their solution is to create some sort of a recession to bring business down and slow everything down. But I got news for them. They don't have to try that hard. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's happening and going to happen anyways. You hear every day, you hear of companies shutting down and closing up facilities and things of that nature. So I think that'll be self-solving as far as slowing down the economy, because it's going to happen, and it's happening as we speak, and it'll get worse, not better. As far as them dealing with inflation, I find it sort of interesting. Inflation's up 20% since Biden's been in office. Now they're actually trying to slow it to only 2%. So we slow it to 2%, but they don't solve the 20%. If you follow what I mean, things aren't going to get cheaper. They'll just stop it from going any higher that much. But for all the people that are suffering right now, that 20% gain that has already happened is not going away under this administration. It's going to maintain itself, and they'll slow down the growth from that 20% to going to, let's say this year, 22%, to 20 plus 2. If they did it. Right now, we're actually at 3.5, almost 4. So, you get mixed signals. For the common folk out there, understand the fact prices are not going down. That price gain that you have seen is going to be the new norm. And then on top of that, you're going to have 2 to 4% inflation rise. Right now it's close to 4. They want to bring it down to 2, but nobody's dealing with the 20. That's the big problem. Trump will deal with the 20. These guys will not deal with that at all, period.
And Wes, what are your thoughts, Wes?
Well, the one gentleman hit the nail right on the head, Brannon. The whole end game for the Fed when they start raising interest rates is to put people out of work and to get people to stop spending money, to slow down the economy. And the great challenge has always been threading that needle. It's a very hard target to hit because, like I've said before, what they're doing today, we don't see the results of that till months down the road. And, there are people out there right now saying, oh, we're going to have a soft landing. And, you can get opinions from everybody out there. But at the end of the day, what the Fed has done by raising rates is taking place. More people are going to lose their jobs, and people are going to be spending less money because they have less money to spend. So, I'm not going to stand on the sidelines and hope and pray that everything's going to be okay, relying on these officials to thread that needle. I'm going to be proactive and take precautions to put myself in the best position to survive if we go into a recession.
Okay. Wow. Well, again, one has to wonder, guys, if what they're doing here is trying to stop hyperinflation. If they're so willing to damage the economy to slow up inflation, Michael Weiner, do you think they are worried about the H word?
No, they're not worried about it at all. This group right here is political.
Do you think they see it coming? Do you think they see hyperinflation coming?
I think they won't say it to us, but they see it. But they're more concerned with the election right now than what really needs to be done.
Do you see hyperinflation coming?
I think that if we don't make a change in the presidency this November, you'll see hyperinflation the first quarter of next year.
And how do you define hyperinflation?
That's when prices, first you get through stagflation, then you go to hyperinflation. When you start seeing prices going up at a ridiculous level like we saw in '79, when inflation went to 21%. Mortgages went to 18%. There wasn't any market for anything other than owner carryback. And you're also looking at a situation where prices just on everything will get so out of control that people will go to subsistence living, which is just trying to make sure they keep a roof over their head and food on the table. Everything else will be to the wayside. Goods, services, clothes, shopping, all this other stuff will come to a halt. And the price for gasoline and for all these electric car buyers, you're going to pay more money to charge your car than we'll pay for gasoline. Be assured of that.
Here's the next headline.
Hit it.
Fed Governor Bowman says she still is open to raising rates if inflation doesn't improve. This is the Fed governor for what district is she with? Does anyone know?
Let me look real quick. I forgot. I read the article, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I was just scanning through to see where she was from. Just curious. It doesn't matter. Let's see. It doesn't even say.
You know what's interesting, Brannon?
Yep.
Is, it's looking like more than likely there won't be a rate cut between now and the end of the year. And here she is talking about not being opposed to raising rates.
Yes.
They keep fighting these numbers that are coming out, the jobs numbers, the CPI, the spending numbers. And so that's why now I'm saying that I wouldn't be one bit surprised if there was not a single rate cut between now and the end of the year. And you don't see, you asked Michael about hyperinflation. What's interesting is you don't see any interviews like this on mainstream news outlets talking about BRICS and de-dollarization, which is exactly what's going to lead us to hyperinflation when these countries walk away from the US dollar and all of those dollars come home. They don't need them. They have to come back home and be absorbed. And, and the definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing the same goods and services. And you don't see anybody on mainstream media talking about this, and it should be front page news everywhere about these countries joining alliance to dethrone the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. And that means big, big trouble for the United States dollar.
Well, you bring up a very good point, because that's what Michael and I were saying in a previous program, is all that's going on with clearly we're headed to World War III. We're clearly headed to a wider war in the Middle East. So, of course, what that's going to do to oil and gas and energy prices. We clearly have a banking crisis. We're going to get to that again in a minute. We have a real estate crisis, a commercial real estate crisis. We have the BRIC system, the de-dollarization.
And national debt. Our national debt is going to kill us, because we're no longer a AAA rated country. We're AA rated. Our dollar decreasing in value means that, and right now, the amount of money that we have interest to pay on our debt is larger than our GDP. So GDP, at the end of the day, we legitimately are going to be upside down the beginning of next year. And when they start raising our interest rates, that'll push all of this down the drain. And one of the things regarding the Federal Reserve is, look at this guy, Austin Goolsbee. If you want to talk about them being a political organization, look at him. This guy has been nothing more than a bag man talking for the Democratic Party.
Tell our audience who he is.
Austin Goolsbee. He's out of Chicago. What a piece of work. This guy has been nothing more than a CNN spokesman and cheerleader for the Biden administration. And every time you would ask him about what's going on, he would sit back and try to double talk his way into saying it's great. And including the Republicans on the Republican senators allowed this guy to become a Fed board chairman in Chicago. And be assured of the fact, the only thing he's interested in is what's for dinner tonight. This guy could care less about doing a darn thing proper for the economy.
And here he is. Okay, here he is. Chicago Fed names new president. Austin D. Goolsbee. He had worked in the Obama administration.
Correct.
Absolutely.
I used to see him when he would go on TV and say the dumbest things. And I mean, just the dumbest stuff. And you would say, this guy is a total moron. And he would be on Fox News being interviewed, and he was always defending the most ridiculous ideas. I mean, if you said black, this is a black piece of paper, he said, no, that's a white piece of paper. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. The information that was being put about the economy was clearly bad news, and he would tell you why it was good news. And you'd sit there and watch this guy and think, no wonder the economy's in the tank. This guy is an idiot. He was like one of Obama's chief financial advisors.
Yep, exactly.
And he goes on to become he got rewarded by becoming the head of the Chicago Fed.
The president of the Federal Reserve Bank.
Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago.
He is now a millionaire with his just political situation. He's a waste of time. I think the guy that's really was a great guy is no longer on the Federal Reserve. Honig, I think, out of Kansas. Wonderful guy, smart man. It's been a long time since we've had good people in there. And when Trump tried to put in Steve Moore, they literally told him he got divorced, so he couldn't be in the Federal Reserve. I mean, give me a break. They need to totally depopulate the Federal Reserve and redo it. I mean, if they're going to do anything at all, I agree with John F. Kennedy when he was going to sit back and abolish it. It's totally become a political game plan for the Democratic Party.
Indeed.
Totally.
Here's the next. By the way, if you want to get the free packet of information from these guys, all you got to do is text Wes your name and address. He'll send you the free no obligation packet of information on how to prepare. And now, look, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. We get financial commentary. Look, you can take all this information, but then you got to go do your own due diligence and look at how should I make sure I preserve some of my income, some of my wealth, your savings. I don't care if you got 10,000 or 10 million. That's your money, and that's part of your wealth. Everybody's wealth differs, right? And not everybody's in the same situation financially. That's why there's no cookie cutter template to tell people. You got to do what's best for you, but you got to start by doing your own homework. Get that packet of information by texting Wes your name and address. He'll send it out to you. Text him at 602-558-8585, 602-558-8585. Also, gold IRAs, putting gold in your IRA. Literally, you will have physical gold sitting in a depository in Delaware with serial numbers, with your name in a vault that is yours, that you could take physical possession of if you want. If the banks collapse, if the stock market collapses, your mutual funds, your 401ks go kaput, Wes, your gold will still be there in physical form in that vault in Delaware that you could choose to pay the taxes on and take custody of. True or false?
Very true. Correct. You can, at any time, you can request to take possession of your physical gold and silver, whether it be bars or coins, and it will be shipped directly to you. Like you say, Brannon, that would be a taxable event. However, if certain products, when you have the metal delivered to you from the IRA, the 1099 is for significantly less than the true value. And the reason why is the trust company doesn't know the true value of the gold and silver. They base it off the spot or paper price when they calculate your 1099. So if anyone has any questions on that, they can call me and we can talk more about that as well.
Okay.
But it is physical metal sitting there at the depository. It is insured through Lloyd's of London for up to $1 billion per event. The metal there is inventoried. Delaware has an in-house audit team. They inventory the products and the accounts throughout the year. And at the end of the year, a third-party auditor comes in to verify all the numbers and do their own outside audit. So if every person at Delaware requested their gold and silver be shipped to them, there would be enough metal there to fill every single order right down to the last ounce.
Because each person's metal is in a cage or in a container that is specific to them. It's not all collective, like, oh, let's see.
Well, there's both. There's what's called segregated storage, which would be your own personal metal in its own area. And then there's commingled, which it's all just in a big room. But when they go to pull your order and send you your metal, they're pulling exactly what you own and shipping it to you. It's just all stored together. Okay,
but so in the segregated, that's specifically tailored to you and serial numbers and the whole 9 yards, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Costs a little bit more money, but yes.
Okay. 602-558-8585. Get the packet if you want to learn how to put gold into your IRA. Before I move to the next article, putting gold into your IRA. Is that something you guys are seeing increase over the last few months as we've talked more and more about the volatility and the problems with our system? Is this something people are calling more about? Are you getting more calls about, oh, I just want to buy some bullion coins, ship me the coins, and I'll store them myself, or I want to put gold in my IRA? What is the most common call now about, Michael?
Well, people are fearing their IRAs because it's something they've been working for their entire life. They're seeing all this instability. They're getting to a point in life where they're coming to reality that I better protect what I have. And the United States government, these people, the Democrats, have a history of nationalizing assets. They did that under Roosevelt. We've talked about it many, many times. And when you see the low-hanging fruit that, as Reagan saw in the 80s when gold IRAs were created, his whole purpose was insulating people with something in their retirement plan that was physical and the government didn't have access to. People are coming to reality with problems they're having at the bank and everything else. What is the biggest amount of money that's low-hanging fruit that the federal government knows where every single penny is? And that's your retirement. They know where it all is. And the first thing they tell you, just like they did with the pandemic, is we're going to help you. As soon as somebody says that to you, you ought to run the other way. We're going to take care of you, and they're going to nationalize. We'll take care of all that money. Don't have to worry about losing money. The federal government will guarantee it, but we're going to pay you a bigger check in your Social Security account. You've got no beneficiary. You have no access to hard dollars. It's gone. If it's in a hard asset, they don't have direct access to it. You are insulated. You have a period of time where you can do and take action. Anything that's on paper, we all know that they can sit back and snap a finger and lock you out of it in a millisecond, literally.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go to this one. Housing in pandemic boom towns up to 40% overvalued, says one individual. I wonder what market she's talking about. Let's find out. Here we go.
In 2 or 3 years, and now they're almost down 20% already. I mean, Austin is a market that's legitimately crashing. That's not an exaggeration. Prices are down almost 20% there, and they're going to continue to go down due to those skyrocketing inventory levels. And you're right, you have to be very skeptical anytime someone tries to tell you that a market will never go down, because I saw it in so many different cities in this housing cycle: Austin, Phoenix, Boise, Idaho, Tampa, Jacksonville. In a lot of these markets, people said it would never go down, but as we speak, it's starting to go down, and the telltale sign is those inventory figures. We have lots of investors selling. We have a huge home builder permitting pipeline that's still getting delivered over the next year. And in addition, particularly in Florida, we're seeing a lot of regular homeowners being forced to sell their homes because of skyrocketing insurance and HOA fees.
All right. Go ahead, guys. Your thoughts?
Well, we're seeing it here in Phoenix, just like you said, Brannon. People are things are tight for them financially. They can't afford the property tax, all the insurance, the utilities. They're having to downsize. And I think that's just going to continue. I think more and more inventory is going to start coming available. I think housing prices will start coming down in certain areas of the country. And, we're just at a point in time, again, where people are starting to struggle financially. And that's the whole point of the Fed lowering our raising interest.
Isn't this really what they're going to use for the Great Reset? Is this not how they're going to justify the Great Reset? Banks failing, hyperinflation, and they're going to then just go to CBDCs and give everybody digits for getting into the new system. Hey, you convert all your cash, everything over here in the next 90 days, and we're going to give you X digits. We're going to make it a boom for you, and everybody's, woo, the government saved us. Mr. Roosevelt's going to save us all, kind of thing.
Right.
Well, what they're going to do is the Democrats, is they create the problem. It's just like they did with COVID. They furthered the problem. They made it worse. Just like I said about myself, I was able to get monoclonal antibody infusion. That's pretty much saved me. And one of the other guys in this company would not be here today if he wasn't able to get it in Arizona, but they stopped it. They don't want to make things better. We said this before, Brannon. They want to make it worse. So they create the problem. They put fuel on the fire and make it worse and worse and worse. And then they come in and say the only solution is nationalizing and letting them fix it. Well, we saw what they did in COVID. They killed more people in this country and had a higher death rate than in Venezuela. I mean, they are incapable of managing things. And we saw that, and we'll see it again. They will do that with the CBDC. If they are allowed to maintain control of this country, they will sit back and do everything to make sure that everything that we have is in their control. Your money, your retirement, just like in Europe, you will not be able to have what's called transactional freedom. And that's what owning gold offers you, the ability to have physical control of your assets versus paper.
Let's go to this next headline. Here it is. Fed fearing losses, banks are quietly dumping real estate loans. What does this mean, Wes?
Well, banks right now are looking to try and offload about $2.5 trillion in commercial real estate. And they're trying to figure out how much they would have to discount that real estate to make it appealing to investors to take those loans and property off of their hands, because they see what's coming. Something that came from COVID is everybody, working from home. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of square feet of commercial real estate that have been sitting empty. And these banks know it's going to be a bloodbath. So if they would rather discount and sell those loans, get rid of those properties, rather than take that significant loss in the future. So a lot of these institutions are scrambling and trying to find a way to put together package deals to walk away from these real estate ventures.
Look at this one. An overload of warning signals mark the last straw that could send the S&P 500 plunging 70%. Okay, well, try to tell that to a few of your friends, guys. And they're all telling you how much money they're making on, what is that latest stock?
NVIDIA?
Yeah.
Which is down 15%, had the biggest drop in value that they've seen in the stock historically. It's all based on AI being phenomenal. When people come to the conclusion that it's not phenomenal, AI is just AI, you'll have a correction in all of these stocks. And now they're trying to create what's really interesting for investors is especially low risk ETF where you can buy it and it's a mutual fund. And they're selling it all around to seniors, telling them it's low risk. Well, again, common denominator, risk. And the other thing is that the fees, the management fee on it is astronomical. So they tell you you're going to make all this interest, and then they throw you in this risk investment with high fees and costs, but they don't really tell you to read the fine print that if there is a correction, you're going to take a hit. They don't even tell you that. But this is a product of a market that is totally oversold, and where people are just buying into this, halo of happiness that's going to change. And the lightning is going to strike.
Yeah, it is. Here's one more. We'll save the stock market crash video for tomorrow. It's all happening again. The supply chain is under strain. Well, Wes, if you want to talk about inflation, there we go. What is inflation? Too many dollars chasing too few goods and services. Well, you can't get the goods. You can't get what you need to offer up the services. Then that increases inflation. So this kind of thing is going to help us push toward hyperinflation and certainly more inflation, correct?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a number of things going on with the cargo shipping industry. Dock workers have been going on strike. The Houthis attacking these cargo ships when they're trying to go through the canals, through the straits. These ships are taking another route that is taking them an additional 2 weeks to get to the ports because they're avoiding getting attacked. These docks are significantly backed up. These ships can wait sometimes up to a week and a half, 2 weeks outside the dock, anchored, waiting to get in to get loaded, offloaded and loaded again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but we've got good old Pete Buttigieg at the helm, which the guy couldn't get the potholes in his city town filled. Let alone run the supply chain.
Yeah, I could say something there, but I will not go there.
Yeah.
Take a look at the headline right here. Worldview Tube. Go there. Look at that. Jill and Joe Biden have refinanced their home 20 times with loans totaling $4.2 million. Yesterday's show is there. This show will be there in a matter of hours. WorldviewTube.com. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Get the free packet. No obligation. 602-558-8585. Wes Peters, Michael Weiner, my co-host. Thanks for watching. Take care.